I do have a little bit different take on theory and attitude about how you move past the pandemic. Of course, building on the things that we had to do in 2020 to survive. Now we're going to take those things and make them assets and create value out of them.
Welcome to the Golden Group Neo Marketing Podcast, a bi-weekly discussion of best practices, latest trends, and modern techniques for professional business communication, including advertising, marketing, digital channels, social media, public relations, and alternative options.
Good morning, Pritch. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Kyle. How about yourself?
Fantastic. Fired up.
Fired
ready
up.
to talk.
All right, let's do
We're
it.
on the podcast today. So our last episode, we declared our last Adapt, Adopt, and Pivot COVID-19 specific episode.
Now what?
Well, now we need to move past the pandemic.
Okay.
That's what we're going to discuss today.
Well, and all of the mask mandates and social distancing.
A little bit of unknown gray area going transition periods and everything else, and we have to figure out how to move forward. Take the lessons learned, the value that we've created in 2020, move forward in 2021 in better ways.
Yeah.
So I have this week, the week that this podcast comes out, I'm doing a talk for the BBB Central Oklahoma. It's a virtual talk, so if you're in Oklahoma City or if you're not in Oklahoma City, you should check it out. It's free and it'll be online. But on this exact topic, how to move your business past the pandemic and move forward. We've discussed a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today on this podcast before. I made myself notes. We've talked about this before. I'm going to say that many times today. But I do have a little bit different take on theory and attitude about how you move past the pandemic. Of course, building on the things that we had to do in 2020 to survive. Now we're going to take those things and make them assets and create value out of them.
Well, and so it seems to me the bottom line is don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
What a beautiful way of summing it up. It's an old saying, but it's completely appropriate here today, right? Is there are things that you will stop doing that you had to do in 2020. There are things you will continue doing. And of course, the question is always, how do I know? And of course, we know how
we know how you know.
Your audience will tell you, right?
Exactly.
So I'm going to start right at the top. We've said this before, but I'm going to define it a little bit differently again today. Stop saying new normal. I have to start there again today. There is no such thing as a new normal.
Normal is normal.
Normal is normal. So every day is new.
Yep.
Every day is new. There's something new that can happen every day. You can't go back to yesterday, so every day is new. Every day there's potential for new technology, new competition, new availability, right? Right now, some materials, even labor isn't available that was available 6 months ago or 2 years ago or 5 years ago, but it's irrelevant. You can only deal with what you're dealing with today.
Exactly.
So, and laws change even. Like session ended yesterday here in Oklahoma. Sine die was yesterday for the state of Oklahoma. So a new slew of laws will be coming into accountability, into practice, starting in 30 days and on into November and the end of the year. Mm-hmm. And so that might change how you deal with your business as well. So every day is a new day. And when you run a business, when you manage a business, when you're responsible for a business, you're a business decision maker, you need to be improving and adapting to each situation every day, because we just said every day is new.
Every
There's
day
potential
is new.
to be new. So,
so
changing or running your business more effective, efficiently every day because something is different is normal.
It is normal.
So it's always new, and making adaptations to your business is normal. So there is no new normal because it is just normal. This is what you should be doing to be new and normal. So you want to be always doing your best in your business. You want to make sure that you are communicating, that you are motivating your potential customers, that you get them to a conversion process, right? We got to make money. We got to get them a conversion process. You have to provide value. The product or service that you've offered, the expectation you created, you meet it, you provide that value. And then, of course, there's customer service. There's the follow-through.
That's really important.
We will at the end of the discussion very much be talking about how to continue repeatable business, right?
Yep.
These are the basics of running a good business. This is also the basics of what you should be doing every day. Those situations change every day, and as far as the specifics, that's why new and normal are out the window because this is what you do when you run a business to be effective and to be efficient, right? We've talked about, the first time, we've talked about this on the podcast before, second time, right? There's no new normal, one.
Right.
Number two, the two ways that you make your business profitable is effectiveness and efficiency. Well, effectiveness is what we just discussed. Communicate, motivate, convert, provide value, customer service. And then efficiency, of course, right? Do it faster, lower your cost, create more value for the same price. Profitability in a business creates survivability.
Right.
It's a new quote for you right there.
There you go.
I highlighted that one in my notes because I'm super excited about that idea. Profitability creates survivability. Typically, profitability equals survivability when you have a down session, when you are in slow periods, when sales drop off, when you're experimenting or trying something new or trying to expand where your income is not going to match your expenses. Past profitability allows you to do that. In this case, past profitability allowed everyone to survive 2020.
Right. Hopefully, if you were paying
If you survived
attention.
2020, it's because you had been profitable in the past. You had money in the bank in order to move through a low point, a down point, restrictions, et cetera, from 2020.
Right.
So by creating efficiency and additional value without burdening the consumer, without charging them extra,
Right.
you're providing additional value.
Well, in efficiency, here is an opportunity to look inside the organization
100%.
to make sure that your employees are motivated,
Yes.
that they're innovating, that they are that their morale is
Are you running
high.
your business as well as you possibly can?
Absolutely.
Is everyone doing their best, hitting on all cylinders, if you will?
Yep.
Is efficiency.
Yep.
So effective in your outward connection, efficiency internally, that equates profitability. If you create profitability without raising your cost or reducing the access for your consumer, that's extended value.
Yep.
Listen to that.
Extended value.
Right. That is how you need to think and move forward in 2020 with all of the effectiveness and efficiency you created in your business because of the limitations, restrictions that were put on to you by COVID-19. You can now look at all these things as the challenges put in front of you are an opportunity. We're all about opportunity on this
We are.
podcast.
Absolutely.
It is now an opportunity to move more effective and efficiently forward as a normal business. No new normal, just running a good business. So, and we've said this before, your business always has to be moving forward. It always has to be growing, or you're going in the wrong direction. You're failing. We have said
Right,
that
you're
many times on this
stagnating.
program before,
Kind
right?
of like a pond.
But in the same scenario, with how you move forward from 2020 is you don't want to lose the investment that you made in 2020. The time, the money, the training of your staff, the training or being trained by your audience, telling you what they appreciated, what they don't appreciate, how they want to do business moving forward, 2020, 21, 22, et cetera. It's all based on your audience reaction to the tools you put in place to simply survive 2020. So don't lose that investment. Instead, make sure whatever you did when you adopted, or pivoted, and we've also said many times on the show again, right? Pivots are expensive.
Yep.
So why are you trying to pivot back if you don't have to? If your audience doesn't force you to pivot back, don't think about pivoting back because it's expensive.
Right.
And you lose the opportunity for
time-consuming.
everyone who followed you through the pivot.
Right.
So think about pivots, of course, when we talk about business models, but also the training, the tools, the technology, and the customer preferences that you have had to navigate through 2020, through COVID. You can now use to your advantage moving forward in 2021 because the attitude of the consumer has also changed.
Yes.
And you
And
have
so
to pay
have their
attention to what they
expectations.
want, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
And we're not going back.
No.
As much as everyone is like, oh, we want to go back to the way things were. That's why they use that term, new normal, and all the rest of these silly little jargons. You're not going backwards. You have to move forward. We've told you that. So if you're not going to go back, you need to go forward in the right way.
Right.
Right? So take the challenges of the coronavirus, COVID-19, of the pandemic, and use it as an opportunity to be more effective, more efficient, and provide that extended value to your consumer.
Yeah. There it is.
It's that easy. You take a negative
Right.
pandemic and you create a positive,
Right.
which is a better, stronger, and more suited for business in 2021 business organization.
Bam. There it is.
There it is, that simple right there. So let's start right at the top, right? Effectiveness, efficiency, we've talked about all that. Audience preferences, give
right.
them what they want, the way they want it.
All right. And
It's
your
that simple.
inject to that is customer service.
That's right.
Your CSR.
And how many times have we said this on the program before? Marketing is a two-way conversation.
Absolutely.
It's not just you yelling at them.
Yep.
It's you listening to them and giving them what they want the way they want it.
Right.
Of course, they want it for free.
Of course, everybody does.
I'm not saying you give it away for free,
Right.
but pay attention to how you can do business with them the way they prefer.
Right.
The people who want it free or want it faster or want it cheaper or want it differently than you can provide it.
Well, and it may not even be the cost of the thing, but how it's delivered.
100%,
And I think about restaurants and how
perceived
they're
value at the same
perceived
time.
value.
Right, exactly.
You know, I'm going to pay the same for a New Yorker at McAllister's. That's a free plug.
Hey, good steak.
You know, but I have expectations that have changed now because
That's right.
of the way that we had to go about getting that New Yorker
Right.
during pandemic.
And the only way you can be successful is pay attention to those preferences.
Absolutely.
So give them what they want, the way they want it. Be collaborative, not coercive.
Yeah.
Let's say it one more time because I want you guys to get that. Collaborative is an attitude, but not being coercive, which is action. Have the attitude of collaboration, not that you need to convince or trick or in some other way negatively motivate people to do what you want them to do.
Right.
Provide the value, inform them of the value, create the opportunity for delivery, and then you have a potential for conversion, customer service, repeat business, etc. That's how you create a positive business cycle.
Right.
That needs to be done more than ever right now. Just is what it is. Here we are, 2021, and your audience, the consumer, they have so many options, more options than they've ever had on how they buy things, how they take in services, how they do business, that you have to be collaborative because they'll find someone else who's more appropriate to the way they want to do business.
Absolutely.
If you won't meet them halfway.
Absolutely.
And they will tell you what they want. You just have to listen. You have to listen, and you have to. Now, obviously, if one person tells you
Right.
that
Right.
they'll only do business with you via
Right.
delivery, that's
Right.
not enough.
That's not enough.
10 people, probably still not enough. 100 people, now I'm paying attention.
And now you need to explore it for
1,000
sure.
people, it's the rule.
Right.
Or 25 people telling me the exact same specific reason and the opportunity to make lifelong customers out of them.
Right.
Or repeatable business or predictable repeatable, the best, right? The best
Right.
thing ever, a predictable repeatable business. If I can see it, if I can find a trend and reason for even something as small as a sample of 25 of my best client, my best consumer, my super target market,
Right.
then I'm going to pay much more attention to that.
Sure.
So as long as you're paying attention to the audience, you're going to do things just fine. So the opportunities that you have for you, and this is not just 2021. Obviously, we want to do well in 2021, right? We're coming off 2020. It's going to be different because it's not a pandemic, and we talked a little bit earlier about the gray areas of what comes and goes. It depends on what part of the country, right?
Right.
But we want you to be successful in 2021, but we want to be thinking about 2025.
Right.
Always looking forward, always moving forward, always growing. If you're doing those things, then you're already on the right track.
Yep. Perfect.
So right now, today, and this is the opportunity. We talked about value and opportunity. The opportunity is there are more ways to do business right now than there ever have been. More options and more opportunities to do business, to provide a product or service at value, create a relationship, conversion process, repeat.
Right.
More ways than ever to do that. None of the old days of you had to have a factory, you had to have a brick and mortar, you had to have a staff of 50, you had to have $1 million to get started. All of those rules are out the window.
Right.
Technology, of course, has been a big provider of those opportunities. Things that can be done online, things that can be done via smart devices like smartphones, things that can be done via delivery, third party, etc. Technology has provided that. Supply chains have changed too.
Yep.
More people doing more business means more opportunities for more raw materials, for more supply chain options. Technology has driven down the cost. You have blockchain and every other way of creating efficiency within the supply chain, which then creates opportunity for a business that maybe couldn't start 5 years ago, can start today because they can source materials, have them provided to them, track the progress, plan for them, etc. Because supply chain is the best it's ever been, even though there's some log jams right now.
Right.
There's a pun intended there because lumber is really high right now. So there's a log jam on lumber. There's certain things that you are having a hard time getting around. Ammunition. You can't buy ammunition. It doesn't matter how many guns you have. You can't find any bullets right now. There are certain things, gasoline and petroleum products hit a bottleneck a couple weeks ago. I think that's opening back up by the time this hits.
Right.
But in general, setting up a supply chain to start a business is as easy as it's ever been. The consumers are currently willing to meet you halfway or more on how we do business. And it goes back to those consumer preferences of, do I get it delivered? Or do I feel like I need to go into your brick and mortar and sit down and consume it there? Can I have it delivered? Is it delivered by you or a third party?
Curbside.
Right, exactly. You also have, because of technology, because consumer preferences are changing and consumers are finding more niche groups, but you have the opportunity to not mass market, but market specifically to those niche groups. In small doses, you get to experiment with small amounts of money until you find the right combinations. The idea of having to buy 16 weeks of a print ad or 16 weeks of television advertising at a big ticket,
Right.
And hoping it worked out, because at the end of 16 weeks, if it didn't work, you were in trouble, right?
Right.
That's the dinosaur of advertising right now. Instead, you can run a series of digital ads, social media platforms, etc., for as low as $25 or $50 that are experimentation in your media mix, in your messaging, in your timing, in your audience focus, etc., until you find combinations that work. Then you can put a lot of money behind it and have something that is much more likely to be effective with a small amount of experimentation budget.
Right.
That's never been available more than it is now. So you can interact with your clients as well. It's not just about that one-way advertisement that just yells at them, buy my thing. You can still do that. You can remind people what your product or service is, the value proposition, etc. But you can also make yourself available for them to speak back to you via social media platforms, via email, text messages, all kinds of platforms that are specific to the consumer telling you, review sites as well, right? All kinds of ways for consumers to tell you if they appreciate or they don't appreciate how you run your business, if you pay attention to it.
We've talked about this on this podcast before. The most effective marketing is the relationship that you've built.
Yes.
And so this is an opportunity. The tools are there, like they, as you're saying, had never been there before.
Yes,
so
for sure.
We can build that relationship.
That's exactly right. And in that relationship, you have the opportunity to change as your consumer, as your audience wishes you to. Change is good. Change is also an opportunity. We've said that on this podcast many times before.
Change is kind of a scary thing, though, for a lot of folks.
And it shouldn't be, but it is.
But we're not talking about, when we say change, we're not talking about this huge,
not radical,
180-degree pivot. We're talking about tweaks.
That's why we all along have been saying adapt or adopt.
Right.
Or pivot.
Right.
Because you don't have to do all three.
Nope.
And you should be starting at adapt.
Right.
Adaptation. Making small changes to what you're already doing to the preference of your audience.
Yeah.
If that's not enough, you have to adopt new practices and different ways of doing business. And then if that's not enough, there's a lot of proof there that a pivot is what's in the cards.
Yep.
If you can achieve the success by adapting or adopting, you should never consider pivoting.
Exactly so.
Too expensive, too hard to do.
Yep.
Really can't pivot back.
I just didn't want our listeners to freak out because we're talking about change.
Not
and
massive changes, not radical changes.
People automatically go to that.
Just making those little changes because
little
you
tweaks.
See trends in the information that's being given back to you by your consumer.
Yep.
Also, when you make those changes, even when they're small, but it proves you're listening to your audience.
Right.
You create value in that relationship. You just said the most important thing is relationship. You can deepen and strengthen that relationship if they see you doing business the way they've asked you to do business. If you actually engage in a two-way conversation, that change, even small changes, can make that consumer who expressed themselves, whether they did it through their wallet or they did it through a survey or they actually went on Twitter and said, hey, you guys need to do this, whatever it is, and 200 people liked that tweet. No matter what it is, if you react in that way, everyone involved feels like, aha, I'm the one who got that to happen. And now I definitely want to do business with you at least one more time, if not over and over and over again, because you're listening to me. That's the super value in change. And at the end of the day, it creates trust.
Right.
Your willingness to do business the way that your audience would like as opposed to the way that is the most economically profitable for you takes you out of that adversarial role of just trying to take my money to sell me a widget and puts us more in a relationship-based scenario, which is the best thing for a business.
Absolutely.
So with that, with that attitude, with change is better, with the opportunities in front of you, with we're moving forward from 2021 on, you have to absolutely kill the phrase because that's how we've always done it. And
Right.
again, we have said
Exactly.
that on this
Exactly.
podcast many times, but it is essential right now. How do I move past 2020 into 2021? Never allow anyone to say because that's how we've always done it. Now, it very may well be that that's how we've always done it is the proper way to do it.
Right.
It still should be examined, challenged, and make sure that the process is correct. Or maybe it's how you've always done it, but you did it in 7 steps and you can do it in 3.
Mm-hmm.
So you may end up doing the same things because they're best practices and they're a lot of common sense, but the idea of hiding behind the phrase,
Right.
that's how we've always done it,
Right.
must die. You must leave it in 2019
Right.
because it never served you in 2020 and it will not serve you moving forward in 2021.
Right. Exactly.
So you have to go with what works until it doesn't. When it doesn't, adapt, adopt, and then, of course, if you have to, pivot. Fix past mistakes. This is an opportunity for you right now. The audience is meeting you halfway. They have patience with you. They understand it's still not business as usual. So they're going to allow you some freedoms. If you're listening to them, if you're trying to provide them what they're looking for, you're creating that depth of your relationship, you're creating a trust factor. You at the same time can fix or improve the things you were poor at previously, roll this into the new process, and it will be appreciated as opposed to, well, yeah, but you know they're not good at this.
Right.
So that's an opportunity. If you can fix past mistakes, if you can learn from those mistakes, fix them and move forward, and your audience appreciates it, or even better, here's the best, if your audience thinks it was their idea. They think they suggested it, you did it because they told you to.
Yep.
Is that going to create loyalty and trust with your consumer?
Well, I think we're going to have a whole podcast on that particular concept in today's environment.
I think you're right. In fact, be Madonna or Lady Gaga. Think about that. How does Madonna have a long career? How has Lady Gaga really created a name for herself? They continually reinvented themselves. Mm-hmm. They were doing pop music. Okay, that's what they do. They're pop musicians. But their look, their feel, their style was continuously evolving and changing and never going backwards, always moving forward, always trying to be what people were expecting them in 2019, 2020, 2021. Again, in 2025, both of these women will be making music and having costuming and music videos that's completely different than anything else they've ever done.
Right.
That's how they keep viable. That's how people continue to find interest in them. Mm-hmm. That's how they are having long careers because they continually reinvent themselves. Your business can do the same. Now, it doesn't have to be radical as that, but I needed an example to show you how you could build a career or build a brand off of continual reinvention.
Mm-hmm. Evolution.
That's right. Also, when you change, when you make these different ways of doing business, you give people an opportunity to try you. Maybe for the first time, maybe a previous consumer or customer that didn't have the best exchange. So you have an opportunity to say, this is something we're doing in 2021. We're keeping up with the times. We hope you would try it. Maybe this is an opportunity for you to try this the first time. This is an opportunity for you to try us again if you liked us or didn't like us in the past.
Right.
And this is the 2021 version of hanging up the under new management sign. Remember those back in the day, right? And typically there was not new management. They just hung the sign up to get people to say, well, I didn't have a great experience in the past, but now that there's new management, I should go and try it again. Changes, adapt, adopt, even pivots in 2020 because of COVID, if you will stick with them, if you continue on with them, that's a digital, virtual, under new management sign that you're hanging up on your business by giving people an opportunity to do business with you again for the first time or to change an attitude they had about you previously.
Mm-hmm.
So, reputation is a huge deal. It has been for the last 5 or 10 years with the rise of review sites and things of that nature. So if your reputation is important, if managing your reputation is online is important, and people will pay for these services and will watch these review sites and do things of this nature, they spend time and money on it, building the reputation by having open two-way conversations with your audience, paying attention to them, valuing them, providing value back to them without raising your prices or putting some other undue burden upon them, and doing business the way people want you to do it in 2021 is a way to manage, fix, and move forward in a great way your reputation.
Mm-hmm.
There's also great things, of course, that there are great tools that help you along the way with your management of your reputation. Like I said, we just talked about review sites. We talked at the beginning, this is all for a BBB talk I'm going to give on the same topic. And so being a member of the Better Business Bureau or some other service that will validate reviews and other people's opinions of your business is a hugely valuable tool. The SEO that you have, the search engine optimization and your rankings on Google is part of your reputation management as well. But also your relationships with the people you do business with. Actual relationships with customers obviously can relate. It could end up in positive reviews, 5 stars, thumbs up, all of that good stuff. But also the people you do business with, your vendors, your subcontractors, the people in your supply chain. If you had good relationship with him, you have an opportunity to expand your reputation amongst them as well. Of course, employees. Your employees should be your best brand ambassadors if you treat them well, if you have great relationships, if you have great communications, if you've built your business correctly, you run it correctly, you pay attention to your employees as much as you pay attention to your audience and your business partners, then your employees can be huge assets in managing your reputation moving forward.
You bet.
With their own just having their own personal opinions, their own social media presence, their own ability to communicate to people out in the world. Hey, where do you work? Is that a great place? Should I go there or not? If your employee tells you no, don't come in and eat here, then someone's not coming in here and eating.
Right.
If you're paying attention to your customers, you understand who your most loyal customers are. Those loyal customers can become brand ambassadors and become influencers for your brand as well. That's an opportunity in 2021 that is more evident and easier to access than it ever has been. And a lot of people hear the word influencer and they think automatically of paid influencers. And you can do that. We talked earlier about experimenting with small amounts of money. You can experiment with some what we would call low-level or mid-tier influencers. We're not talking about Kim Kardashian or a former president. We're talking about maybe someone who is internet famous or Instagram famous, or someone maybe who's just famous in your market that you could either pay them a couple $100 or provide them product or service or have some other exchange where they become an influencer on your behalf. You can experiment with those things for a small amount of money. You also, though, can create organic influencers from your most loyal customers who also happen to have social media presence or other sort of influence online.
Right.
Or in the world, in the real world, if you are paying attention to them. It goes back to where we started. It's where we end. Everything circles back to the attention to what your audience is telling you, and in your ability to actually put the work in, to put the effort in, to be focused on it, to be dedicated to it, to say, we are going to do this because it's the right thing, because it's good business, because it's what our audience consumer wants. It's because how we create predictable, repeatable business. And refusing to accept good enough, it was good. It was okay before 2020, and the death knell because we've always done it that way. If you'll reject those things, if you'll put the effort in, if you'll have this collaborative attitude, if you use all the tools that we've addressed today in those order, in the way that happens, you have the ability to build a better business model moving you forward in 2021, on to 2025, on to 2050, and it'll be more adaptable, it'll be more flexible. Whatever changes in your industry, in your audience, in technology, in laws, all those things we said will be new every single day. Your ability to absorb those changes and make them beneficial instead of negative is much more effective if you learn all these lessons, keep all these tools, and use it to build upon moving forward.
There you go.
So build your future for your business by taking the traditional idea of best case scenario, of best practices, and things that are proven to work with an attitude of openness, collaboration, and an ear to your audience, and the idea of success is easily attainable.
There you go.
That's what I have for you folks.
Perfect.
I hope you liked it.
Perfect. No, we're halfway through 2021, and
Basically,
we do need to be paying attention to how we're going to proceed.
That's right.
And so there's lots of good advice there.
Last little bit of advice on this. So we talked about earlier, kind of hit on gray areas, mask mandates. I think California's mask mandate ends July 1 or June 1. So I think, if I'm right, all 50 states will have dropped mask mandates. I'm sure some cities around the country might still have some. But for the most part, most places you're doing business, your official government mask mandate has gone away. Now, you still own your business, and this is where this is not a government discussion. This is a private ownership discussion. And we're real passionate about private ownership of business. That's why we do this podcast. We want small businesses to succeed. You, as the business owner, have to make that decision about people coming in, your employees, et cetera, who wears masks, who doesn't, how much of these changes from COVID you're going to put into effect. And people ask me this all the time. I guarantee you in the BBB discussion that I'll have this week, someone in that discussion will ask me, how do I know? What do I do? I kind of feel this way. My employees feel this way. And at the end of the day, it's your audience. It's the consumer. And I think if you really stop and think about it, here in Oklahoma City, we have a different attitude that I guarantee than a lot of places in California or New York about mask itself. Both when the pandemic was at its highest point and now as the whole starting to open back up process. You live in your city, you know your consumer, you know your customer, you know the market that you're in. Philadelphia, they have different attitudes than we have here in Oklahoma City. So don't think about yourself, think about your market. Don't think about yourself, think about your audience. If your audience, if your consumer is trying to show up without the mask, they don't want the mask, then you need to be quick to let that go and be transitioned back into pre-COVID or no mask scenario. With this exception, you probably should let your employees hold on to their mask and their safety regulations much further past than your outside people, whether it's retail, food service, brick and mortar, etc. You need to show the public that you're willing to go above and beyond what you expect from them, from your employees, and allow your employees to feel safe or protected or part of this process at the same time. If you can do that, this transition will be easier. Every market will be different. Just pay attention to your market, pay attention to your audience, ask them what they want, survey them, put it out online, do all kinds of ways to get that feedback. And again, like everything else we said today, your audience will dictate, but don't put your own personal opinions on it. If your employees are part of this discussion, they're not the most important part, but they are an important part. So you want to listen to them as well. But I think you're going to have a mix of visitors, whether they're your B2C or B2B, are going to have the freedom to do what they want. And the employees, the behind-the-scenes people, the back-of-the-house folks are going to be doing extra protocols in order to continue the trust factor with the public until we get to a point where, in general, most people are just past this whole scenario. So that's a little bonus tidbit for you. You're the business owner. You get to decide this.
Right.
But you understand, you're also, as a consumer, you understand if you go somewhere and they make it hard for you to do business with them or uncomfortable, both whether you would expect people to wear a mask or you expect to not have to wear a mask, whatever the scenario is in your city, your town, your locale, just pay attention to that. It's not about you. It's about the consumer, and try to navigate it as much as possible. But you, as a business owner, get to make that decision. Now, if that decision hurts your business, it's on you.
It's your decision.
If you want your business to survive, to be profitable, to move forward, you need to let your audience really dictate that.
Bam. There you go.
We're going to leave you with that today, folks. We said earlier that you can converse with your audience. We're going to converse with you right now. We're going to ask you to give us feedback. Go online on social media, on our YouTube page, on our Facebook page, on all the social media channels, anywhere you found this podcast. Make a comment, leave a review. Tell us what you like, dislike about the show. If you agree, disagree, if you think I missed something in this conversation, although I jammed a lot of stuff in here and I went really fast. If you want me to expand on any of these ideas, anything you would like to see or hear out of the Neo Marketing Podcast in the future, we want that feedback. We walk it like we talk it, and we will listen to you, and we will do what you ask of us because you are our consumer. And with that,
there we go.
Until the next episode, good luck.
Ciao.
This has been the Golden Group Neo Marketing Podcast. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Tell a friend, leave a review, and engage with us on social media. Thanks for listening.